Hey everybody, welcome back. So this kind of falls under a Buckeye sea story, but it's not really a sea story. And I guess it kind of is because I was in the Navy at the time. But it wasn't about being at sea or on a ship. Or really anything to do with the military other than I was enlisted at the time. And I'll try to rename the participants to protect their innocence. But the year would have been, and I'm just going to be vague here, mid to late 90s. That's when I was in Pensacola. I had some friends come down to hang out. And Pensacola's a cool area, right? Very cool area, a lot to do, especially as a sailor. It is a sailor town. If you're not sure what a sailor town or a Navy town is, think a lot of bars, a lot of gentlemen's clubs, a lot of after-hours stuff, a lot of liquor stores. You get the picture.
3.6 miles.
Right? You get the picture. Anyhow, we had been out frequenting the local establishments. And I had some stuff at the house for when we got back. So I think there was a case or two of beer and a cooler and just some various bottles of booze. At some point during the shenanigans, all hell broke out in wrestling matches, multiple wrestling matches. People just beating the crap out of each other. Back in the day, I was a big fan of the wrestling move, the sharpshooter and the Boston Crab. Both great moves. I grabbed Damon and Brian to protect his innocence. And I throw him at a Boston Crab. And he gets just sick. Next thing I know, I hear the cooler door, or the cooler lid open, and so thank goodness he made it to the cooler. That was the good thing, because it didn't get on the floor or anything else. The bad thing is there was still about a case and a half of beer in there, and none of us were going to clean that up. So needless to say, the cooler got walked out to the dumpster and thrown away in its entirety. On a side note, Jack Daniels is what really got us that night. To this day, I do not like the taste of Jack Daniels nor the smell of it at all. And don't give me this crap about it's a bourbon. Technically, I guess some people argue it is, but it's Tennessee Sour Mash whiskey to me, not a bourbon. And it's disgusting. And I know Curmudgeon loves the stuff. It is bad. But anyhow, the weekend continues. And you know, I don't have to tell y'all. A Navy guy with his college buddies, all in their early 20s, all legal to drink. You can paint your own picture of what that weekend looked like. Now, fast forward to a friend getting married. The friend that was getting married to protect his innocence was there that night. And the friend that was the best man at the wedding was there that night. A lot of stories about that night. A lot of stories. So we're at my friend's wedding, and it's time for the best man to give the wedding speech, the speech for the groom.
Continue straight.
And it starts off good, talking about how their friendship for years and what the friendships meant to him, and how being friends with this guy has, turned him into a different person and shaped him, and he's learned a lot from him. And at that point, he proceeds to go into the events of that very night. My friend's grandpa's there. He's a pastor. Her dad's there. I believe he's a pastor as well. Half the room was drinking, half of them weren't. We happened to have been. Anyhow, as this speech goes on and on, the shock and awe of the people in attendance gets greater and greater. And the laughs get less and less. And you get more looks like, I can't help myself. I am in tears sitting over there listening to this speech. And on and on and on it goes, to include throwing up in the cooler. So I guess I gave away a friend there. Etc., etc., etc. And at the end of the speech, you could have heard a pin drop, except for me laughing my ass off. I thought it was the funniest thing since sliced bread. Not that sliced bread's funny, but I thought it was the funniest thing ever. Again, being 5 or 6 beers deep probably didn't help my cause any. But, we talk about this to this day, about the speech. And how it really changed the way a lot of people looked at my one friend. From a judgmental perspective, so shame on them a little bit. Everybody's had a little bit of a wild side. So my friend, he goes and apologizes to his wife's grandpa, his new wife's grandpa, just married. And the grandpa was actually cool about it. He said, I was in the service too, and I served with plenty of guys that had similar crazy stories, so don't worry about it.
Turn right on US 4017.
Didn't make things any better. Although Grandpa was slightly cool with it. I don't think the rest of the family was at all. And I don't think Grandpa was. He was just nice enough to say that, right? He was a good guy. He was a World War II vet. I believe World War II. And he was a very interesting guy to talk to. I love talking to the guys that have served, especially in the older wars, 2 or Vietnam. There's not many World War II vets around anymore, but I could listen to those guys all day. But he was kind of in that vein, just a guy that you could listen to talk. Very interesting man. So my friend felt kind of let down that speech happened to erupt. So I'm not sure my friend's family appreciated the speech either. But that was one of the most interesting speeches I've ever heard in my life. So that's the story of the visit that turned into the speech that turned into something we still discuss to this day, 15, 20, 25 years later, whatever it is. Pretty funny stuff. Needless to say, Friend A will probably never ask Friend B ever to make a speech again, and I'm damn sure would bet that he won't have him, if Friend A, God forbid, happened to pass away. I guarantee you Friend B would not be invited to get up and say a eulogy or say a few words about the dearly departed. That ship is sailed. Anyhow, would love to hear your stories. Out of this thing, Brian still walks with a slight limp from the Boston Crab. So that left a lasting impression on him. I'm not sure if he can drink Jack Daniels, but I know I cannot. I have to choke it down. I have at Curmudgeon's. Curmudgeon loves the stuff. I don't know. He's a fancy boy. That's a story for maybe later today or another day. Curmudgeon's a fancy boy. Smokes fancy boy tobaccos, drinks fancy boy whiskey. Anyhow, so Jack Daniels, no. Brian's permanently disabled from the Boston Crab. Lost a cooler. Lost about 24 to 36 soldiers in that cooler. Took some heavy casualties that night. And it all resulted in one of the most uncomfortable wedding speeches you will ever hear in your life, or have ever heard. If you have a similar story, I would love to hear it. If you want to do a VR, if you want to post it below deck, whatever you want to do, I would love to hear. A, have you ever permanently disabled a friend with a WWE wrestling move? It was WWF back in the day. It'll always be WWF to me. Have you ever permanently disabled a friend with a WWF wrestling move? 2, is there any liquor or beer that you can no longer stand the smell, taste, or sight of? I'll give you 2 more. I cannot stand, and I haven't seen it in forever, cannot stand Ice House beer. Disgusting. Can't even look at it anymore. And fire water. Oh my God. I had alcohol poisoning that night with the Ice House beer and the fire water. Those are also on my list of. And third, I would love to hear about the most interesting wedding, funeral, graduation, whatever speech you got that just set the world upside down that night. And if you're like me, the only dude in the whole entire room that thought it was funny, had tears coming out of my eyes. I couldn't help it. Hey, that's the sea story for this time. Thanks a lot for watching. Wash your damn hands. We'll see you later with some more stories. Have a great day, everybody. Take care.